Hi, we're going to have pizza night tonight, and Grace is thrilled about helping me do this video. We have tried a lot of low-carb pizza crusts since we went low-carb. Cauliflower crust, pork rind crust, cheese crust, do you remember any of the others? Almond flour crust. But our favorite by far is the fathead pizza crust, and it's pretty popular, the fathead pizza crust, and it can be intimidating because you have to flatten it out. Anyway, Grace is going to help me do this. So easy. I'm doubling the recipe because not only does it make a great pizza crust, but it also makes really good buns for hamburgers and sandwiches. So we're going to start with our mozzarella cheese. Again, I'm doubling it. The recipe calls for 1.5 cups of shredded mozzarella. I did cheat and buy the pre-shredded mozzarella, but you really probably should buy it and shred it because when you shred it yourself, you avoid the starches that the manufacturers put in it to avoid it from clumping. This is a quick family night, so I'm using the store-bought. This is cream cheese. It calls for 2 tablespoons of cream cheese. I'm doubling it. So 2 times 2 is what, Grace?
5.
4 tablespoons. Okay, once you get that all in there, you put it in the microwave. So that's just mozzarella cheese and cream cheese. All right, Grace. Grace is going to put it on for a minute. Give it a stir. Here you go. And after that,
Wait,
stir.
do I stir it before I put it on?
No, 1 minute first, then stir, and then we're going to do 45 seconds. Okay? Okay. After the cheese is melty, we're going to add to that almond flour. And again, if you're making one recipe, it's 3/4 cup of almond flour. And this is finely ground almond flour. I'm doubling it, so that's 1.5 cups. And then 1 egg, and again, I'm doubling, so I have 2 eggs. You're also going to add some salt. This is 1/4 teaspoon salt, and some garlic powder. It's about 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder. Use whatever you like. You can also add to it some Italian seasoning. That makes it kind of nice. I'm not going to add the Italian seasoning because I'm going to use part of the recipe for buns. While that cheese is melting and we're getting ready, I'm going to talk a little bit about toppings, and I'll show you these a little later on because what we're going to do is we're going to make the dough. We'll flatten it out on the parchment paper. I'm going to put some in this pan for my buns. We bake it at 425, so the oven's on 425, about 8 minutes. This may take less time because it's not as large. And then we're going to put our toppings on it. And once it's baked, so you're going to want the toppings pretty well cooked, or toppings that don't have to cook a lot. And I have snitched, this was some leftover breakfast sausage. Has it gone twice, Grace?
No, I'm stirring.
Oh, okay. This is leftover breakfast sausage I crumbled up because we do like sausage on our pizza. I've got pepperoni because we do like pepperoni on our pizza. I'm going to use some strained tomatoes, just probably 1/3 cup as the base. So that's going to be my pizza sauce. I have sauteed some green pepper, onion, and mushroom. Good, looking good, Grace. And that will also be part of the topping. Again, make sure I've sauteed it and cooked it because once this is baked, you bake this without any toppings on it. So once it's baked and you bring it out of the oven, you're just going to put toppings on it to put them in long enough to kind of melt, not really long enough to cook. So you want to cook any sausage, any hamburger meat. You could also do a low-carb barbecue sauce and make like a barbecue chicken pizza. I think that would be great. You could do a taco flavor. There's any of your favorite flavors that you like on pizza would be good on this fathead recipe. You could also add additional seasonings to it as well. It's really versatile. No way to make it dairy-free that I've figured out, but it's something that even the carbivores in our family will enjoy. So let's see how that's going. Grace, I see it's got 7 seconds. All right, let's see what it looks like. This is probably the most intimidating part, is working with the dough, because if it gets stringy when you're working with it, you want to pop it back in the microwave. So what do you think? It is really hot, so give it a stir so it's more uniform. Yeah, get the outside. There you go, that's it. And it's going to be like with the microwave, sometimes things don't warm evenly. But again, you just put it back in the microwave. It looks like it's a great consistency, Grace. You can see that, hang on, sweetie. You can, go ahead. You can see that the cream cheese is melting in with the mozzarella. And you want to work pretty quickly to incorporate. If it gets real stringy, it's not warm enough. So let's go ahead and put the, I'm afraid we waited too long. We'll see. And let's put the eggs in there. And you don't want the eggs to cook, so I usually put the almond flour in first. So that was 3/4 cup of almond flour. I doubled it for 1.5 cups. 1 egg usually I doubled for 2. And we're going to stir. And honestly, the best way to do this is to get your hands in it because it does cool quickly. And I may have to stick it back in the microwave. You can't spend a lot of time kind of goofing around with it. You really have to get in it when it's, okay, so let me scrape this off and roll up my sleeves. And I'm using a, thank you, Grace. I'm using a glass bowl so that you can see this isn't ideal because it is so deep. But just get your hands in there, mush it around. I took my rings off so they wouldn't be ruined. And just when you're working with it, this is quite warm, but just when you're working with it, you're going to think this will never ever work. And then the dough starts to come together. And I can smell the garlic that we put in. And you just keep working it. Oops. Thank you. It doesn't have to be entirely perfect. It needs to be mixed better than this, but it doesn't have to be entirely perfect because it will melt again in the microwave. But you can see this is not well mixed yet, but it's starting to come into a dough. We're not going to toss it in the air, are we?
I tried it before. I'll do it.
You want to do what?
I'll toss it.
Oh, let's not toss it tonight. And this is coming together pretty nicely as a dough. Okay, so when I get it a few more twists, I'm going to share some with Grace and we'll get the pans and start putting it in the pans. Do you want to do the little ones or you want to do the big smushy one?
The little ones are harder to mess up.
And I think, what do you think, Grace? Mixed pretty well?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Here, I'll put it in here for you. And that way you can pull off what you need. And you may have to, I saw some almond flour there, you may have to keep kneading it a little bit as you go. I'm using parchment paper so that it doesn't stick. We're not using anything over there. We can spray it with coconut oil or rub it with butter if you want to, just in case. Coconut oil is in the cabinet.
Down.
Butter's on the counter, babe, near the coffee. See it? There you go. We always have the Kerrygold by the coffee, right? And Daddy will hand you a knife. Okay, so this is mixed pretty well. It's nice and warm. It's warming my hands up. And you just flatten it out. You can do it as thin or thick as you want. And I may have this too thick. But we're going to use our highly technical term of mushing. Again, you can see it's rolling out pretty well. And you know, somebody out there is probably going to say, why don't you use a rolling pin? I don't like rolling pins. I don't believe in them. They can embarrass me too much sometimes. So just using my hands is fine. You could do a round pan. I have never used, I know somebody's going to ask me, I have never used a pizza stone. I am afraid that it would stick. So Grace and I are going to flatten these out, and then we're going to put them in the oven. So we're going to pause the video, and we'll show you what they look like when they come out of the oven.
You're on.
Okay. Hi. Actually, I decided I would show you this before I put it in the oven. And so here is the pizza crust, and you can see it's not perfect. It doesn't have to be. There are a couple of holes. Remember what we're working with. This is mozzarella cheese, and so it's all going to melt and fill in those gaps. So don't worry about getting it too pretty or too perfect. And our dough didn't go as far as I thought it would, but here are the buns, or these could be mini pizzas. But this is what we put together. So it's going in our 425 degree oven, and we'll see what it looks like in about 10 minutes. Okay, so our crust is out of the oven. And I told you it didn't have to be perfect, and mine certainly isn't. And I think I was supposed to poke holes in it so it didn't rise up, but that's okay. And you can see this is relatively thick. If you like it thinner, just spread it out thinner. It smells really, really good. Okay, and these are, I took these out of the tin already. These are the little buns. Again, I can make mini pizzas if everybody likes different flavors, or those make really good sandwich buns, and that's where those are going to go. Okay, so I'm going to use 1/3 of my palmy strained tomatoes. I love that it's in a carton and it has no sugar added. It's one of the lower carb tomato products I've found, and being strained tomatoes, it's really thick and there's a lot of flavor, so it doesn't take a lot to give you the tomato flavor. A little really does go a long way. Okay, so I'm scraping the good out and then I'm just going to take my spoon and smooth it out just as evenly as I can. And it really is going to be more of a hint of tomato because that's where the carbs are. Keep in mind with the crust, the mozzarella cheese is low carb, but I did add 3/4 of a cup of almond flour, which makes it a little carbier. And I added, that's it, I think, well, some carbs in the garlic, salt, and seasoning. So, and I'm going to add some carbs in the toppings, not many, but the vegetables have carbs. So I spread out that tomato. And this is going to cut up with a pizza cutter, just like you were making a regular crust. We love pepperoni at our house. So, Jonathan, you want to help me do pepperoni? No? My kids are camera shy today. I'd love to have help because it would go that much faster. But that's okay if he doesn't want to help. Anyway, I'm just going to put the pepperonis on it. And I'm going to spread them around. We need to make this a fairly quick meal because we have other plans tonight, so we're all moving in double time. After I get the pepperoni on here, are you going to help me, J Bear?
Sure.
All right. Thank you. Oh, this pan is hot. Jonathan's going to finish up the pepperoni for me. Thank you for coming to my rescue. Let's get this corner over here, babe. Is that it?
Yep, that's all the pepperoni we have.
Okay, here, I'm going to open this. And there, those are little ones. Can you put those in that area that doesn't have any? So while Jonathan's helping finish that up, this is sausage, and this was kind of left over from breakfast. And I'm just going to sprinkle it around so we don't get in each other's way. You don't need a lot of sausage. That's why the leftovers are going to work really well for that. Thank you, J Bear. It is great to have help in the kitchen. Jonathan, what's your favorite pizza topping?
Probably regular cheese.
Just cheese?
Yeah.
Yeah, you like it plain. What's your favorite vegetable?
Speaking of cheese, hey Mom, can I have some of
that? Hold on. Well, let me finish getting this on and you can have some. Okay? Another topping besides the sausage that I'm going to use is some bacon because, well, it's bacon. You don't have to put bacon on yours. You don't have to put any of this on yours. Put your favorite flavors. You can put black olives, artichokes, some broccoli. Just going to sprinkle the bacon around. I had chopped it up. This was bacon left over from breakfast again. So it just gives it a nice flavor. Adds a little fat. Remember, everything you put on here you want to be cooked ahead of time so that, because it's not going to be in the oven, we're just going to put this in here long enough to brown the toppings. So there's the bacon. And this is a little bit of vegetable. This is peppers and onion and mushroom that I sauteed in bacon fat. You know, I always save my bacon fat. And I didn't do a lot, but I'm just spreading this out. I think it was probably less than 1/3 of a cup of the pepper or the onion. I know it was less. It was maybe 1/4 cup of onion. Very, very little onion. It was 2 mushrooms, so really trying to keep the carbs low. I did add Italian seasoning and garlic to this as I was cooking it. It smells fantastic. It just gives it a little more flavor when you do that. And once I put the mozzarella cheese on, we're going to sprinkle some Italian seasoning. So let me rinse my hand. And we're going to sprinkle the cheese on. It's looking pretty good to me. We don't have it perfect, but that's okay. You can see a little of the bell pepper, the mushroom, the pepperoni, the sausage. It's all looking good. Now, I'm going to use mozzarella cheese. You don't have to use mozzarella. You could use a combination of mozzarella and Parmesan. You could use Gouda. You could use cheddar, just so that you have a distinction between the crust and the topping. Use whatever your family enjoys. And how can you go wrong with nearly any cheese? I'm going to have to get a little more cheese. I'm going to save some for Jonathan, since it's his favorite. Okay, that looks really good to me. Can never have too much cheese, right? Okay, that's going to go back in the oven. And, oh, actually, let me do what I had suggested with the Italian seasoning. I just take the dried Italian seasoning and shake over it. It melts into the cheese. The fat kind of picks up the herbs, and it is so good. It really, you can't tell a difference when you don't use it, but when you do, it just makes it better, gives it a little more flavor. So back in the oven, and then we'll show you supper. And while you put this in the oven, call your kids to the table, set the table, fix the ice water, because dinner is almost done. Okay, our pizza is ready, and it looks great. It smells great. Everything's just nice and melty. Got my pizza cutter, so I'm going to cut it into pieces, and I've got my family kind of circling around. I think they're ready to eat. This could not be simpler. Don't let that recipe intimidate you. Dealing with the crust. Okay, and you can also make those crusts ahead of time, bake them, and freeze them. All right, Grace, that's a big slice. You ready? I'm gonna pass that to Dad. And here's the other big slice. I see the bacon. All right, guys, tell me what you think. And I may not have cooked it long enough to make it so that you can hold it in your hand, but often if you make it thin and crispy enough, you can hold it in your hand. Getting a thumbs up? Yeah? Is it good? Okay, that is the Fathead pizza, and I hope that you're able to make it so that your family can enjoy it too. Goofballs.